Hi everybody, welcome back to Phoenix Rising. Today is Thoughtful Thursday and this is where we talk about something personal. I want to share the highs and I want to share the lows. So Thoughtful Thursday is always just like an open forum to talk about some of those things. When I was about 20, I got referred to my first adult consultant, a rheumatologist who specialised in Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So I was diagnosed at 16. I saw a rheumatologist then in Leeds at the time, and then I was discharged, had some physio and I was discharged. And it was really exciting because the thought of meeting somebody who actually understood what my condition was and who could explain it to me and I could have a better understanding about it, because as I've sort of said in my other video, at 16 nobody really talked about it. I didn't understand it, we didn't know what it meant, didn't fully understand what it meant. I just kind of got on with it. So it was quite nice to be able to go and speak to somebody. And she was really good, the consultant. She took a full history, we did bloods, and she sort of explained a lot of things to me in detail around, especially sort of like women and EDS, around like hormonal implications with hypermobility, especially women. Have reported fluctuations in their condition due to like menstruation during pregnancy. And I think that that's so important because basically they're sort of saying that there could possibly be a link between your hormonal changes during them times and your pain or your ability to manage your pain. I didn't know that at the time, and I thought that was quite useful to understand as a woman, that if I was going to have my period, does my pain feel worse? Or at different parts of my cycle, does it feel worse? You know, things like that. And no one had ever had that conversation with me before. And also the other thing is that, you know, it made a bit more perfect sense why my symptoms seem to start or get really come to the forefront during puberty, when all those changes are happening and your hormones are sort of developing and changing. So I feel like that kind of helped piece some puzzles together, because we were all a bit like, I've been fine since before then, you know. So I thought that, you know, some of the things that she said was really helpful, and I was excited about what the next step was going to be after that appointment. The second appointment comes round. I'm 21 at the time. I've just started my nursing degree, so I'm on placement, things like that, and it couldn't be a completely different experience if it tried. I didn't feel seen at all during that appointment. I actually felt quite invisible. I felt like very dismissed. I explained some of the ongoing and increase in pain, so my symptoms had been worsening. So my hips, for example, had been worsening. You know, at times, sometimes I couldn't even move. It used to stop me in its tracks. It was really bad, really severe. And basically I was told there's no magic pill to solve it. It's your EDS. You're just going to have to get on with it. I explained that, you know, I said, you know, that I was already doing the exercises, the physio. I was working really hard with the physiotherapist at the time. And it kind of like, it made it feel like, well, you need to manage your pain yourself. And I thought, well, I'm doing everything I can, and it's not getting any better. I also had other symptoms. I had some stomach issues, and I had a couple of episodes at the time. I didn't realise, but it was costochondritis. I was getting chest pain, and it wasn't until I turned up to A&E, that's how bad it was, that's what they said. I mean, A&E treated me so well, but I was explaining that I was having that, and she was like, well, if it happens again, just go to A&E. And I was like, it's not an A&E thing to go to though. Like, what can I do? Like, there was no holistic care. There was no suggestions of how to manage those things, those inflammations when they come up. There was no explanation around that information, like why it happens, nothing. Basically, I was told that, you know, any types of injections were not appropriate, and, you know, my sleep was really poor, and she just said, well, if you don't get enough sleep, that's going to make your pain worse. And it's like, okay, well, if I could just take a magic pill to go to sleep, I would, but I'm in pain during my sleep, so what is it that can help me? And it was very, very dismissive. She just sort of said, you need to go to your GP to start out your pain relief, and that was it. I was examined because I'd complained of specifically my hips being really painful. She said, there's no point referring you for a scan, it's not going to show anything. You know, it is what it is. Patients like you, like with EDS, are a doctor's worst nightmare, because there's nothing that, you know, you're too complex, too complicated. That's what she said. So it makes it really difficult. And she says, and those that don't do their exercises will end up in wheelchairs. And she actually said, if I carried on working the way I was working, doing my nursing degree, that I would be in a wheelchair by the time I was 30. She said some things around pregnancy, around sort of like really fear-mongering things about giving birth and not carrying till full term, and hips dislocating, and just as a 21-year-old woman, it just felt so overwhelming, and so I was so upset. I can't even tell you. I literally, when I left, I cried my eyes out on the way home with my mum. I literally could not stop crying. It was awful. She actually scared me to death about the idea of children. Not that at 21 I was thinking that, but as a woman, those things do cross your mind. She scared me to death about that. There was no empathy. There was nothing, no compassion within the appointment whatsoever. And she kind of half-heartedly mentioned some holistic therapies like acupuncture from the physio, but she said we might not be able to refer you to that. It was like saying one thing and then taking it back with another. So I just felt completely traumatised. Like, that is literally the word. She traumatised me to the point where we did actually put in a complaint about it, because I didn't want anyone to have to go through that same treatment what I went through that day. It went into PALS. We got a half-assed apology. There were a lot of excuses around her feeling under pressure with time constraints and work pressures and things like that. But, respectfully, again, I work for the NHS and I understand that, but I would never, ever speak to a patient like that. I'd never not listen to them. I'd never make them feel like, what's the point of them being there? I wouldn't shatter their bloody hopes and dreams in one appointment and then say, basically, you're discharged. Like, I just wouldn't do that. So, yeah, safe to say I didn't go back ever to see that person again. In your early 20s, you're kind of finding yourself, aren't you? You're working out where you want to be in life, what you want to do, you're testing the waters on stuff, trying to sort of figure out your identity a little bit, like what you had in your head about where you think your life's going to be, it isn't there, all them kind of things. And so for me to go and speak to somebody who basically has told me that my career choice is going to make me disabled. I already had a fear of not wanting to use aids. I was very anti, I've talked about this before, but I was very anti my condition. I kind of did not like that part of me, so I wouldn't tell anybody that there was anything wrong with me. I wouldn't make it obvious. So any kind of outward sign that I was struggling or I was living with pain, I would not want anyone to know about. So to tell somebody who already feels very upset about the fact she's got a condition and will do anything possible to not use any aids to support herself, that she's going to be in a wheelchair, was absolutely devastating for me. Absolutely devastating. I mean, luckily, like, once I'd calmed down and I'd reevaluated, I was never going to give up nursing at all. Never. And I'm so glad I didn't. I was never going to give up nursing, and I was never going to allow somebody to dictate to me at 21 where my life was going to end up. And I'm the type of person where once I've understood what you've said and I've took it in and I've accepted it and you're not going to help me, then I will figure out how to help myself. Like, I am that kind of person. So, and that's, I would say it's taken me I'm 34 now, so I would say it's taken, even up to now, I'm still learning and trying to live healthier and stuff. So, on a positive note, so at that same time I was also seeing a physiotherapist, and she was amazing, probably the best physiotherapist bar the one I have after my surgery I've ever seen, because she was just so good. She did the acupuncture, which I did like the acupuncture actually. I thought it was helpful, but she obviously gave me lots of exercises. She worked with me for a really prolonged period of time, but my hips pain was just not getting any better. She discussed it with an orthopaedic consultant who agreed that they felt it was mechanical and not just purely linked to my condition, that there was other factors going on, and that it would be helpful to have a scan. It's the best thing that ever happened to me, because I met literally the best orthopaedic surgeon I have ever known. He's incredible. The minute I met him, he just, I can't even tell you, like, he alleviated all of my worries and anxieties, and genuinely wanted to help, and he really figured things out for me, and I couldn't be more grateful that I got to be under his care for such a significant amount of time, because I learned so much from him and his team and how amazing they were. I couldn't be more grateful for that. So there are some really good people. I don't want it to feel like I'm coming on here and saying that everybody is terrible, but I think it's just so important to know that when things like your health and your wellness and that mold into your identity, one bad experience with somebody in a senior or authority position like a consultant can really shape the way that you view your health and your condition. And I could have gone the complete opposite way, and I could have given up nursing. I could have sort of like admitted defeat and started not using my body as much as I should have done, and I could have done all them things and become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because I had that negative experience with a consultant. So luckily that didn't happen for me, but it was traumatic, and I think just one experience out of 100 really good ones, that one always sticks with you. But I have since then had some wonderful people that have supported me in my care, so I did want to end it on a positive, really. So for anybody who's watching who's living with a chronic illness, is waiting to get diagnosed, is feeling dismissed, just be really that your voice matters, like what you have to say matters. You know your body the best. And don't give up if you feel that you're not getting the answers that you need. The right professionals are out there to make the right call for your care. It's just sometimes you have to really be firm and have some courage in your conviction, because you, like I said, you know your body. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Sorry if I waffled on. I just thought it was a really important part of my story that I wanted to share with you. If anyone's got any stories that they would like to share, or any advice on how they've navigated sort of those discussions with professionals, then please write a comment. I'd love to engage with. I'm trying to build a community of people, so I would love to engage. But yeah, I think these stories sometimes remind us that we're not alone, you know. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed this video, and for more content, go on my Instagram, which is in the bio, or watch some of the other videos for the week. Okay, thank you guys.